He has done it. Jannik Sinner has won the 2024 US Open 6-3, 6-4, 7-5, and 2 hours and 16 minutes over the American Taylor Fritz. First American to be in the final since 2006. It's been quite a while. The last video, a lot of talk about who in fact is disrespecting Taylor Fritz in the American contingent of tennis players. Was it I a couple of videos ago? Was it Francis TFO when asked about the match? He said he was clearly the better player despite losing. Or was it Jannik Sinner today when he adjusted his serve return position in the second set? Present evidence A, exhibit A, I mean. Sinner, average second serve return, hit points. In the first set, Sinner thought, hey, I got to take my chances where I can. I got to be really aggressive and step in on the second serve return. Some would say that's a little disrespect to the second serve. But you could also argue it's saying, hey, Taylor Fritz, best part of his game is the first serve. I'm not going to win enough points there necessarily, so I got to make sure I make my second serve opportunities when they come. I got to make sure they count. By the second set, Sinner had realized, I really just need to get some balls back in play because this guy has no chance of taking me out in a ground stroke competition. When we get the rally, neutral terms, any kind of terms, if I can just get the ball back deep enough to get me into any kind of rally at all, even a little bit of a hole in the beginning, I'll dig myself out and I'll crush this guy with my superior forehand and backhand. That's why in the second set, Jannik Sinner moved all the way back 9 feet after taking second serves, about a half a foot to a foot inside the baseline. He moves back and takes them 9 feet away just to make sure he gets more balls back in. No matter what the quality, just needs to get them back in play so that he can get in a rally and dominate. Maybe it was the lady from JP Morgan Chase. You see her here. Clearly, she has a favorite. And when she handed the massive $3.6 million check to Jannik Sinner, she sounded like a fangirl. She excitedly said, I even wore this orange dress in honor of you, Jannik, because it's like a carrot dress. Yeah, a little disrespect to Taylor Fritz there. But before we go on, before we talk about how great Jannik Sinner is, let's just do one last little bit of disrespect. Remember this moment? Remember this moment when Jannik Sinner, the godfather of tennis, now it is official, number one in the world, 2 majors in this year, when he said this after beating Jack Draper. Remember this moment?
Me and my team, we know what we have to improve. Like today, maybe I should have gone maybe a little bit more in the net sometimes.
Right? He could have minimized a little bit of risk. Jack Draper playing hot and heavy, a little danger in some of the rallies. So when he got ahead of it, it wasn't worth it just to hit another neutral ball and go back to even in the rally and have to duke it out longer with the powerful young Brit. He decided it would have been safer to actually minimize risk by going into the net and taking advantage of the ball that got you the advantage in the rally in the first place. He went into net 25 times in 3 sets against Jack Draper. And he said, me and my team talked about how that was maybe a mistake. I should have found a way to get into net more. Would have been a better match. Would have been more playing the right way, as Jannik Sinner said. Today against Fritz, he goes in about half the time in 3 sets. Only 13 trips to the net. It was not necessary. He didn't need it. A little bit of disrespect to the game of Taylor Fritz there as well. But in all seriousness, that was enough joking around. Let's talk about this incredible achievement. And before I do, someone's going to say, Matt, but what about the fact that he's a dirty, doping Italian, Jannik Sinner? He's a doper, right? The coach, Darren Cahill, and watch this. You'll see, I don't want any copyright issues again after last night. So we're going to let it play with just the pictures, just the audio. But there will be a moment where I snip the video in for about 1 second, 1.5 seconds. I hope there's no copyright issues with the overzealous USTA. 1 second, I'll let it creep in where you can see the look in Darren Cahill's eyes as he explains this. You'll see in the beginning, there's a still image of him collapsing. The rest of the team's jumping up and celebrating, but Cahill collapses after Sinner wins on match point. And he's going to explain to the ESPN commentary crew why.
Going on and what was that a father figure or a coach? What position were you in reacting here? And
I think that's more of an old man reaction.
A little joke, but here comes the serious stuff.
I'm not the main coach in this team. Simone's the main coach, but I'm the most experienced. And so the last 3 or 4 weeks, not the last 4 months, really a lot of what's been going on within the team has laid on my shoulders to keep a sense of things, to keep his focus on what we're trying to achieve, to make sure I continually tell him he's done nothing wrong. So whatever happens, hold your head up high because you've done absolutely nothing wrong.
One more time. Did you catch that? He's getting a little emotional. Look in the eyes.
Continually tell him he's done nothing wrong. So whatever happens.
He almost lost it. He almost broke it up there. Now, call me crazy, but I believe Darren Cahill, and I don't think this guy is part of some elaborate doping scheme to cover up for the player. And I don't think he's a dupe either. I don't think he got fooled by the dirty doping Italian physios and doping cream specialists, as some would have you believe when we talk about this. I'm kind of joking, but some people talk about it like that. You know, he's a doctor. He definitely knew what he was doing with that doping cream when he got it on his finger and rubbed it into the massage. Anyways, I don't think Darren Cahill is part of an elaborate ruse. And, you know, do you think he's that good of an actor that he's going to fake this emotion as he declares that Sinner is absolutely innocent? And, you know, he's not necessarily saying that in that moment, but what he is saying is, you know, you can tell he really feels for Sinner and thinks it's really unfair to this guy because, you know, his career is just really getting going. Like, he's been a top player, but now he's the kind of player we're going to talk about, like, where he has big three potential, right there with Alcaraz. They split it. This is the first time 2 young guys have split all 4 majors in 1 year since Jim Courier and Pete Sampras did it in 1993. Before that, it was Jimmy Connors and Bjorn Borg in the freaking 70s, man. It's a big deal. So Darren Cahill, with his historical perspective of the sport, I think he really appreciates what a special player this guy is and has for a long time. He's seen the potential years ago, just like, if I may say so, I did here at this show saying he was the golden child, the chosen one, the one who may break all the records, in fact, one day. That was said here a couple of years ago. Darren Cahill had the same feeling as I did, and you could tell he knows this guy is just starting to realize his greatness, and for this to happen at such a crucial moment, you know, right after he wins his first major, a year where Djokovic is starting to not be the same as he's been for the last 15, 20 years almost, a moment where Roger and Rafa are gone. This moment, for this to happen, it's tragic, and it could have derailed him. Assuming that Sinner is totally innocent, for this trace amount to get in his bloodstream inadvertently, accidentally, by a physio who was treating a cut on his finger, right? And a lot of the media reports you see, they say Sinner had the cut on his finger. That's incorrect. What actually happened was the physio who was given the sports massage after the matches, after the practices, he was treating a cut on his finger. And this stuff, we're gonna have a bunch of evidence for you today about the doping scandal. We're gonna get into it. We got more doping information than you can shake a tube of doping cream at to give you today on the show. We're gonna get into all that later, but for this to happen, assuming he is innocent, which I do believe he is innocent, it would have been a tragedy if he actually did get banned and lost the rhythm, lost the momentum. And what has been a great year for him could have been a better year if he didn't have to deal with this, you could argue. Either ways, it is an incredible year, and it's a shame that this happened, but I believe them. I believe Darren Cahill, and I believe Jannik Sinner, and I do not believe that they are the kind of people that would do this on purpose and try to cheat the system. And another thing is, I think Sinner, unless he's a stone-cold maniac, he doesn't seem to have the guilty conscience that would come with this, right? If he really was intentionally cheating and got caught and then just barely got out of it, I think that would wear on you in a different kind of way, and I just don't see that. I don't think he's a total insane person, even though the way he stays calm under so much pressure in these big tennis matches and the way he's done it now with all this going on in the background, even though that is incredible, I don't think he's some kind of serial killer style psychopath. I think he's a good guy. I think Cahill's a good guy, and I think they are exactly what this sport needs moving on from the era of the big three. Welcome to Coffee Break Tennis. It's too late again. East Coast time majors, they end late. It is too late to have coffee, so we are drinking not the Golden Warsteiner Biera in honor of Novak Djokovic. We're drinking Oktoberfest because it's about to get started. Who knows? Maybe someone will travel to a land far away and be a part of Oktoberfest and something else that involves a cup. Welcome to Coffee Break Tennis. I am Matt Bradshaw, your humble host. Happy to be here. Like I said before, we will take a deeper dive into the doping cream scandal. We will set the record straight. But first, we got to say something about Taylor Fritz. Credit to him. He played a good enough final to make it entertaining. At moments, it felt like he was in it. He had a chance, but in the end, we all knew it was always going to be Jannik Sinner, and it was in straight sets in the end, even though Fritz made it respectable. With that said, I remember why I don't like Taylor Fritz. I just remembered. Watching the trophy ceremony, I had a strong reminder of why for years, I shouldn't say don't like him. He seems fine. But why I just didn't find him appealing. He's not a tennis player that captured my heart the way a young Jannik Sinner did years ago, the way Roger Federer did. Not immediately. There was a little bit of a love story, a moment where I turned away from Roger Federer in those early days that I started watching him, but it didn't take him long to win me over. Rafa and Novak, took some years for them to win me over, but I always admired them and appreciated them and thought they were pretty cool guys, even if they were beating my hero Federer all the time. What it was is not one that he touches his hair all the time. We go to the trophy ceremony. Taylor Fritz does this a lot. Now, I do that a lot. Roger Federer did that a lot. Heck, Sinner even did it a couple times, but he waited until the official photos were happening with the trophy before he did a hair check. Taylor Fritz, I think it's just a way of life for him. It's part of the California dude lifestyle, bro. It's not that. It's not that he was so disappointed with losing that he was holding in his mind an imaginary U.S. Open Champions trophy right when they were about to present him with the big dinner plate. No, it's not that. It was the resting Fritz face. Do you remember resting Fritz face? I had forgotten about it, but it came out in full force during the trophy ceremony. Look at this. So many faces of disappointment. And, you're thinking deep down a little bit at least, like, come on, Taylor. You were never even close. Not even Dr. Brian Hairline, chairman of the board and president of the USTA, was able to wipe the resting Fritz face off of Taylor Fritz's face. He was not able to cheer him up and get him to smile. No, it was actually Andre Agassi who eventually got Fritz to cheer up, except that you made the final. You almost broke the curse. You broke the curse of no Americans in major finals for a very long time, right? About almost 20 years there, 18 years. Moving on from Taylor Fritz, congratulations to him. It was a good performance. I'll say a few words about Fritz, actually. I think he has a chance to take that spot that Tsitsipas has. He's there with, like, Rublev, right? The gatekeepers, Medvedev and Zverev, will probably keep him out of another final, but I don't think it's impossible. I think Fritz could make another final, and he could get lucky and win one of these things. And I don't mean any offense by saying he could get lucky, but he's going to need a little luck on his side to not run into a Djokovic on the warpath to get one more slam next year, to not run into Alcaraz or Sinner in the next 15 years. How much longer? He'll be older than Djokovic in 15 years. Am I doing the math? Yeah. He'll be older than me, Rafa, and Djokovic. He'll be Federer's age in 15 years. So Fritz doesn't even have that long. Let's say Fritz has 11 more years to play. He'll make it to my age. He'll be 38, like me and Rafa, and still playing out there maybe. Gasquet made it a little further. Didn't Gasquet, he's officially retired here at the US Open. I think he was 39. Anyways, I see him taking that spot maybe from Tsitsipas, who seems to be falling out. I think he could beat Medvedev or Zverev in a big match and make another final. But I just don't think it's likely he'll beat all of those guys and take out Sinner or Alcaraz in the final. But who knows? Guys get injured. Tennis is a grueling, tough sport. If Fritz keeps doing what he's doing, he's going to make a lot of money. He's going to have a great life, and he might be able to get one of these eventually. I give him a chance. He has a small chance, but he needs to get better. Patrick McEnroe and John McEnroe were talking about that, in fact, and saying that they believe Fritz might have maxed out. He might have gotten as good as he can get. He can get better at the net, but the movement is about as good as it's going to get. The second serve maybe could be a little better. Even though it's good, but for top 10 players, top 5 players, it could be a little better. The first serve is pretty much maxed out. Forehand's pretty much maxed out. The ground game, it's pretty good. There's not a whole lot of room for improvement. They said maybe TFO can be a little fitter and not cramp so much. But the main thing to watch out for, especially in American tennis, is Ben Shelton. A lot of upside still with Ben Shelton. As we said earlier in the draw show, I had Ben Shelton going further in the draw because I said ultimately I think this guy is going to be more successful than these other top American players. We enter upon a new era, indeed. Take a look. There's no denying it. Yes, I want Djokovic to come back and win next year. Hell, I'd love to see Rafa win the French Open next year, but it's probably not going to happen with Rafa. And Novak, I give him a chance, but the window is small. Next year is pretty much it for Novak, maybe the year after. Got 8 majors where you could consider him still having a chance to win, I think. That's what I think. I could be wrong. But take a look at this from the Eurosport. In 2003, Roger Federer won one of the 4 majors. Agassi, Juan Carlos Ferrero, and Andy Roddick took the other ones. That was the beginning of a 20-year period in which no one not named Roger Federer, Rafa Nadal, or Novak Djokovic would win more than 1 in a single year. I'm checking really quick. Did Andy Murray ever win 2 in the same year? I do not think so. For 20 years, nobody gets more than 1 major not named Roger, Rafa, or Novak. Nobody. And it's very rare that they even get one because the majority of those years, those guys won all 4 of the majors. The last time 2 guys split the 2 majors each was 2017, the year that this show started. Great year indeed for tennis fans. Roger Federer won 2. Obviously, Aussie Open and Wimbledon. And Rafa won the US Open and the French Open. Now, a new era begins. No one from the big 3 wins. And Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz in their early 20s win all 4 majors in 1 year. Something great is starting. Starts with a big bang for Jannik Sinner. Take a look at this. Players to win both hardcourt Grand Slams in a season. Well, Mats Wilander did it in 1988. Roger Federer did it in 04, 06, and 07. Novak Djokovic did it 2011, 2015, and 2023, just last year. Tied with Federer for 3 years, they are able to do that. Well, now Sinner has 1, and he's done it a lot younger than Roger and Novak did it at. He's close to the Roger's age that he did it, but he's still younger, at least I would say a couple years. I think in 2004, Roger might have been 24. So about a year younger, Jannik Sinner is when he did it compared to Rogers. And it just happens to be 20 years after Roger did it in 2004. It is done this year. 2024. Moving on. Well, let's look at some stats before we get into the real serious stuff. Sinner won the first set 6-3 in 41 minutes. Starts off, almost goes up 3-0. Seems like Fritz is a little nervous. Sinner a little nervous after that. We see this all the time in big matches in tennis. But he wins 15 of the last 19 points. Really slammed the door shut. Look at this stat. Sinner broke serve 3 times in the first set. Fritz only won 48% of total serves in the first set. First and second serve combined. 48% of the time. Winning less than half. You can't win doing that. He wins in the second set 89%. 89% of the first and second serve points combined. That sounds like a winning number to most tennis players, right? And remember that first set was 41 minutes, winning less than half. Then he's winning almost all of his serve points, or almost 90%. And Sinner wins the second set even faster in 35 minutes. Maybe Sinner was helped along by Fritz holding serve pretty fast on a good rhythm with the serve, but you knew Sinner was going to get a chance. He backed up. He said, I just need to get in rallies. Eventually, I'm going to find my chance, and he sure did. You can see another stat from those first couple sets. Jannik Sinner able to find his forehand 67% of the time. This is not really what Taylor Fritz's game plan would have been about. Not letting Sinner dominate with what is many people are calling now. Many people have said the best forehand in the world. The best forehand in the world. Jack Draper can say, I can say for myself, he's got a pretty damn good forehand, is what Jack Draper said. It is the best in the world, many say now. And if you're Taylor Fritz, you don't want Sinner hitting 67% of all the shots with the best shot in the world. That was not part of the plan, turned out. We go to the standard stats. This is overall stats, I do believe. Yes, for the whole match. Taylor Fritz out-aced Sinner 10-6, but if you're going to win this, Taylor Fritz, and your best weapon is your first serve, you're going to need to hit more than 10 aces. 5 double faults for Sinner, 4 for Fritz. First serve in, only 51% for Sinner, 59%. That's not too bad of a number for Fritz. I think the first set would have probably kept that number kind of low. Win on first serve for Sinner, 88. That's all about the ground game. The first serve is good. It's really good. But the ground game means like you get a good first serve in with his ground game. There's just Fritz doesn't have what it takes to take him out in those rallies. Maybe Alcaraz, you know? Like when I talked about earlier with the coming to net stat, if Sinner was playing Alcaraz, that would have been more of the plan. He's going to need drop shots. He's going to need to come to net a lot. Against Taylor Fritz, just get into rallies and you're going to win the majority of them. And that was definitely the case. Second serve, 48% for Sinner overall. That's not the best number, but you look at the numbers from Taylor Fritz's side. First serve, 68%, not high enough. Second serve, 43%, a major problem for Taylor Fritz. So Sinner able to survive on the 48% win on second serve numbers. That'll be a number he wants to improve in big matches in the future. He's not always going to be, again, I don't mean serious offense to Taylor Fritz, but he's not always going to be so lucky as to have Taylor Fritz in the final at the majors he will play in the finals of. Net points won, 8 out of 13 for Sinner. Didn't need it. 13 out of 19 for Fritz. Not bad. I mean, that's a pretty healthy winning number. Maybe should have found ways to get in more often. Maybe that could have helped. Break points won, 6 out of 12 for Sinner. That's a lot of opportunities to break Fritz. Now, Fritz had a lot, 7, but he only converted 2 out of those 7. And Sinner was really good. And a funny stat, they said the majority of the break points, especially in the ad side, Sinner would serve really big, flat bomb up the tee. Maybe add a tiny bit of slice or spin to it to get the percentage in more frequent, higher. But he's bombing it down the tee. Ball comes up the middle short. He steps to his left, and he crushes a forehand, and he's going to win the majority of the time. And that sure worked. So very clutch Sinner was when facing those 7 break points to usually find the first serve and finish with the forehand right away. Receiving points won, 42% for Sinner. That's too close to 50% for Team Fritzy. 23 winners on 21 unforced errors. Only +2, but -5 for Fritz. I mean, as much as this felt like, I don't want to say a blowout. Again, it was a respectable straight sets loss for Taylor Fritz. But these numbers are, not too far off with the one, +2 versus -5. I mean, that's a swing of 7. It's definitely not good, but you would have thought maybe it'd be a little more lopsided. Didn't really have to be. We look at the first set alone. Fritz was getting 38% of the first serves in. That really killed him. There was a stat I saw earlier that I think 28 out of the last 31 U.S. Open finals, the guy who wins the first set wins the match. So odds are not good, something like that. It might have been worse than that. More majors than that, more years. Anyways, odds are not good for the guy that loses the first set at the U.S. Open for sure. Win on first, 55. Win on second, 44. Way too low. Net points won, 2 out of 3. Maybe didn't go in enough. But, how are you going to find many opportunities to go in against Sinner? If he went in more, that number would just come down most likely. Looking at the second set, much better from Fritz. 78% first serves in, winning 83% of the time. Only winning 40% on second. But look at Sinner's numbers. 100% win on first serve, 55% win on second. He's unbreakable in this set. So when you're serving like that and you're able to back it up with the ground game like Sinner, you just give no opportunities for Taylor Fritzy Boy. We shouldn't call him that again. That was an old nickname here, Taylor Fritzy Boy. He's Taylor Fritzy Man now, I think. Final set, again, win on first serve, 100% in 2 sets in a row for Jannik Sinner. The 38% on the second serve, that hurts, but 100% of the first serve makes up for it. And maybe there's a little bit of nerves involved at some moments. He almost let Fritz back into the set, but he was able to slam the door shut, so that's a big deal. Numbers for Fritz, 63% first serve in, but winning 63 on the first serve is not good enough here, and winning 43 on the second not good enough either. Not much better than the numbers that Sinner had. Even though Sinner had a very low first serve percentage in, 40%, that hurt him and gave Fritz a chance here. But the ground game, so good, and we talked about it before the match last night. You look at the stats from the tournament, the ground game's so good, like really no chance for the poor guy. All right, we move on. We start with Honest Sport. Now, this is Edmund Willison, the investigative journalist, who wrote about how common this cream, the Clostebol doping cream, is in Italy. I mean, they practically put the stuff in their coffee over there, okay? Everyone uses it. And there's a strong concentration. In fact, there's a stat in here that over half of the cases in the world, doping sports cases with this Clostebol stuff, over half of them come from Italy. Kind of like when Sharapova tested for that meldonium stuff. It's over the counter. You don't need a prescription for it. You can get it in Russia. That was the deal. So a lot of Russians had it. Same thing in Italy. It's even more common, it sounds like, in Italy. People use it all the time to treat burns, cuts, skin issues. It's pretty common stuff over there. So let's dig into this one. Italy's Clostebol doping crisis across tennis, football, and the Olympics. An anabolic steroid once given to the East and West German athletes has resurfaced in elite Italian sport. Honest Sport investigates whether the drug is now being used similarly to testosterone creams. This is from May 22nd of this year. Let's take a deep dive into this stuff. And I have a link below in the description if you want to read these articles in their entirety. But we're going to read a lot of it, so bear with me. It might get boring. In the months leading up to the 1987 World Athletics Championships, Birgit Dressel had taken the concoction of the drugs and medications in order to train harder and harder and mehr schwer. And she sought to bring heptathlon gold home to West Germany. Tragically, Dressel never made it to the championships nor the Olympics in Seoul the following season because she is tot. Dressel died from organ failure in April of that year. Dressel passed away in the intensive care unit of Mainz Hospital after suffering from paraplegic shock. She had taken copious amounts of narcotics under the direction of her doctors, of all people. We're supposed to be able to trust the doctors. To treat painful muscle hardening caused by her anabolic steroid use. Oof. Dressel considered anabolic steroids to be harmless, which had contributed to her liberal use of the drug class. They are all harmless drugs. All athletes take them. It's really nothing special, she said just before her death. I believe this is in 1987. Apparently, a lot of athletes were using this stuff in the 70s and 80s. They're using a whole bunch of stuff back then. Kind of makes you wonder about athletes from a long time ago. What kind of doping creams were they on? Anyways, they explained this guy Lucioni. He's a footballer. We're not going to get into that. I want to stick to the tennis and a little bit of the Olympics, but take a listen. 4 years after this guy Lucioni, who tested positive for this stuff and eventually was exonerated, I think, if I remember correctly. 2 Italian junior tennis players, 17 years old at the time, both of them, test positive for the Clostebol doping cream within 3 months of each other. One of the minors, Mathilde Paoletti, who played at the Junior French Open, was training at the Olympic Training Center in Formia in 2021, the year she was caught. The other minor, Magrano Tamaro, was a top-ranked world junior and also in 2021 was training under the same national team coach. Any concerns that these players were the victim of child doping were officially misplaced. Paoletti tested positive after petting her pet chihuahua, who'd been administered the Clostebol spray by the mother to heal a wound on the chihuahua, which it sounds believable. Also, these Italians could be coming up with a million excuses because they're all using the doping cream. Maybe that's possible. Again, even if that were the case, I still don't know if that proves that Jannik Sinner's part of the scheme. I think it's just a lot of Italians, and he was trying to be true to Mama Italia and hire these Italian guys, these dirty doper Italian guys. And, maybe I would believe that the guy who said he treated his finger and then gave the sports massage to Sinner and didn't realize how sensitive the stuff is. I would believe that he did it on purpose, like, what Jannik doesn't know ain't going to hurt him. Something like that, saying like, I'm not going to tell Jannik I'm doing this, but I'm doing it. Maybe it'll help his muscles recover a little bit, I would believe that before I believe that Jannik was doing it intentionally. And I'm not just theorizing here. I don't say I believe that even. I believe the guy treated the cut because, like I said, these Italians use this stuff all the time. They're putting it in their coffee. They're treating their fingers with it. One of them treated a sunburn with it, and the other person's rubbing it on their chihuahua. Anyway, so moving on. While in the case of, after she pet the chihuahua, who had been administered Clostebol spray by the mother to heal a wound on the dog. While in the case of Mariano Tamaro, his father applied the spray to a wound on his son's knee. He didn't even think about it. Now, I think maybe this was before they put the label in the box. I'm not sure. We're going to read on. I think it does tell us. But away from tennis, the spray of Clostebol cases has been felt further across Italian sport. When the girlfriend of Olympia Milano basketballer, a basketball team in Italy, Riccardo Maraschini, sliced her finger while cooking, she used Clostebol to heal the cut. Like Lucioni's doctor, Paoletti's mother, and Tamara's father, she was unaware that Clostebol was prohibited for use in professional sport. Okay, so they were unaware. Unfortunately, she naturally would come into contact with her boyfriend. It's to be expected. Clostebol unknowingly entered his system from the touch. just from her touching him, being around him, right? Equally unfortunately for Olimpio Milano, Italy's most successful basketball club, their power forward Christian Burns, American guy, went over there, I guess, tested positive for Clostebol 2 years earlier. Pre-games doping testing before the 2016 Rio Olympics, 2 qualified athletes both tested positive for Clostebol. Out of competition in the month of July, both athletes, volleyball players Orsito and sailor Roberto Caputo, missed the Rio Olympics for Italy. Italy has quite clearly been in the midst of a Clostebol crisis. We read on. According to the World Anti-Doping Agency, the WADA, W-A-D-A, half the world's Clostebol cases come from Italy. Incredible. A statistic partially explained by the fact that Italy is one of the only remaining countries in the world in which Clostebol is still sold. When WADA banned the heart medication meldonium in 2016, the drug at the center of the Maria Sharapova affair, the hundreds of positive cases were largely concentrated in Russia. In order for an athlete to test positive for a drug inadvertently or not, the drug has to be available in their geographical location. Therefore, doping cases involving specific drugs can be location specific. Outside of Eastern Europe, meldonium is widely not available. Therefore, most of the cases involve Russians. Outside of Italy, Clostebol is not widely available in Europe or the rest of the world. Therefore, the majority of the cases involve Italians. It remains bewildering, however, that Italy's athletes are missing the warning sign printed on Clostebol creams and sprays in Italy, which clearly states that the product contains doping substances. I mean, Italians especially, but all Europeans are kind of used to this because have you looked at the cigarettes they sell in Europe? They all have like pictures of people dying on them to scare you away from smoking cigarettes. And clearly that's not working because if you go to Europe, no matter which part of Europe you're in, everybody's smoking. So I think Europeans are just used to not looking at the packaging on their creams, cigarettes, and all the stuff that they consume, I suppose. Moving on. The drug was initially developed in East Germany before it was synthesized with other drugs and given to the state's Olympic athletes. But since the collapse of the Berlin Wall, the drug is scarcely available in Europe. However, in Italy and Brazil, the countries faced with the most Clostebol cases, the drug can be bought in pharmacies without a prescription. In Italy, it is most commonly sold in cream form as trofodermin, the exact one that Sinner was tied up with. And a tube can cost as little as 12 euros. That's pretty cheap. That's like $15 here. Less. Trofodermin is applied to the skin to treat abrasions, lesions, burns, and infected wounds. For example, and perhaps the most famous Clostebol case, Norwegian Olympic skier Therese Johaug claimed to have tested positive for the steroid after applying Trofoderm cream to treat her sunburn while treating in Italy. If you're in Italy, they just give it to you and say, hey, this is sunscreen. I'm serious. Everyone uses this stuff. We're starting to feel a little bit better about this Sinner case. It's just so common with the Italians. His mistake was trusting Italians. I think that's his big mistake. Anyways, an independent tribunal accepted she had missed the red warning sign on the box, and she was allowed to return for the Beijing Olympics in 2022 and win 3 gold medals. At those same Olympics, the Spanish skater Laura Baccaro tested positive for Clostebol. I don't know. How does she get it? She's not from Italy. To no surprise, Baccaro is based in Italy. Oh, well, there you go. That explains it. Anti-doping insiders are now concerned there is another reality to at least some other Clostebol cases. Trofodermin is a cheaper, more obtainable alternative to testosterone gels for athletes operating on the darker side of the sport. In one case, the athlete received the standard punishment because he couldn't explain the case. In another case, the athlete had a reduced sanction because he demonstrated that he was negligent by applying a cream of Clostebol on his dog without using gloves. There are numerous cases to support these affirmations. In 2023, an Italian tennis player, Stefano Battagliano, was banned for 4 years after he failed to show that he had taken Clostebol inadvertently. If he just kind of jumped into action like Team Sinner did, he could have maybe made a case and gotten out of it. Instead, he was banned for 4 years. Curiously, before 2010 Commonwealth Games and British shot putter Mark Edwards tested positive for Clostebol and testosterone, he was not able to come up with a proof that he had a lack of intent. Well, if you got Clostebol and testosterone, that's a little tougher. That guy got banned. Anyways, it goes on and says, yes, it seems like some people it's happening on accident, a lot of people maybe, and then other people in this darker side of the sporting world, because apparently a lot of people have used a form of testosterone that's a gel form, and it is harder to detect, just like this stuff is. There's also part of this article, we're going too long, I want to get out of here soon, so I'm not going to go too much longer, but there's also another part that says, they did studies to prove that this stuff, you can get it from not even applying it on yourself, just from putting a little on your finger and applying it on somebody else's cut, something like that. They did studies like that, and it turns out you still can fail your doping test. That's how strong this stuff is. So it doesn't take much for you to fail the test It is totally believable if, someone's girlfriend can put a little on a cut and then touch the boyfriend and he can test positive. If the massage therapist for Sinner can do it. It's believable that this can be an accident a lot of times, but it also is starting to look like maybe some people are catching on like, hey, this is something you can use that maybe we can get away with. I don't think Sinner is one of those guys. On top of that, another study shows that this is not nearly as effective in sports enhancement as the testosterone gels and other things that people have used to try to cheat with in the past. Anyways, that's enough about that. Hit the music. We're going to get out of here. I have one last case for you. And this is the one thing I was concerned with, a lot of people are concerned with. And the more I read about this, the more I find out that this all was pretty fair, and it doesn't even look like Sinner had a ton of preferential treatment. The only thing is there's a rumor, it's just a rumor, that the ATP tipped him off and gave him an advance warning that, hey, you're about to find out you failed the test. Maybe call your lawyers now. Again, there's no proof of that, but it's a rumor that goes around. I don't know where it started, but people are talking about it. I do find that believable. I could see that happening. And it's just one of those things that comes with being the most important person or one of the three most important people in the sport. I would say Djokovic, Carlos Alcaraz, and Sinner to the ATP. Those are the three cash cows as it stands today. Anyways, moving on from that, there is a player. He was ranked outside of the top 100, and he failed his test in October of last year, and he got out of it even faster, I think, than Sinner did. So it looks like this is not necessarily the big favoritism thing that we all thought it was. Apparently, this happens a lot, especially with this Clostebol cream, with athletes across all kinds of sports. It happens especially in Italy. And let's get into this really quick. This is from the International Tennis Integrity Agency. Today they confirm, this is from, I think, early this year. Today, we confirmed that Italian tennis player Marco Bortolotti bore no fault or negligence for their adverse analytical finding and is therefore not subject to any period of ineligibility. He's not getting banned from tennis, and it happened pretty quick. October 4th, 2023, ATP Challenger event in Lisbon, Portugal. Bortolotti provided an in-competition urine sample which contained the presence of a metabolite of Clostebol. Clostebol is an anabolic agent prohibited at all times under Section S1 of the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA. Prohibited list. Bortolotti, who reached a career-high world doubles ranking of 102, not even a singles player, okay? Not even top 100 in doubles, this guy. No priority for the ATP to try to intervene and clear him, right? We can agree on that. He was charged by the Commission of Anti-Doping Rule Violations under Articles 2.1, blah, 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 blah. February 5th, 2024, he accepted that Clostebol, so 3 days later, after he's notified, he accepts that Clostebol was present in the sample and therefore admits to ADRVs, but provided an explanation. The player asserted that he did not intend to cheat and did not knowingly ingest Clostebol, providing evidence in voluntary contamination. As part of the investigation, the ITIA sought scientific advice from the WADA-accredited laboratory in Montreal, Canada, a bunch of French speakers over there, where the sample was analyzed for expert views on the plausibility of the player's explanation. The laboratory performed calculations based on Bortolotti's exposure to the Clostebol and the concentration detected in the sample and confirmed, based on scientific literature, the player's explanation was credible. Given all the circumstances and consideration of recent comparable case law, the ITIA accepted that the player established the source of Clostebol metabolite in the urine sample and that they could not reasonably have been expected to take further precautions in relation to their exposure to a prohibited substance. In addition, bear with me, I'm almost through this thing. In addition, no provisional suspension came into effect as a result of Bortolotti's prompt explanation and timely validation from scientific experts. And in accordance with TADP Articles 9.1 and 10.1.2, Bortolotti's results, prize money, and ranking points from the Lisbon Challenger, $10, have been disqualified. However, as the player bore no fault or negligence, no subsequent results of the player will be disqualified. The ITIA is an independent body, blah, 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 blah. You get the point. I believe for Jannik Sinner, right here on Coffee Break Tennis, the case has been closed. See ya!